which are FSME position, and then holiday pay increases for rank and file. Nominal increase there under longevity. There are four, I believe, Chief, it's four first deputies eligible for retirement under drop.
Oh, no, it's
go ahead.
Under the drop, there's only one administrative officer, myself, that'd be eligible for retirement this year, and that would recover. That would cover like payout for vacations and all that weren't used, and sick leave and all going out the door. You'll see the same line in for 3 employees under the suppression division then.
Thank you, Chief. So this item, you see, it doesn't appear in 2021. It does appear in 2022 because of this, to account for the specific circumstance of those retirements that are planned. Nominal increase in light and power, contracted services, only an increase of $668 there. The rest of the increases are fringe obligations and or reductions as a result of those that choose to use benefits or not. With that, I will pause at fire administration for any questions. Councilor Freitas, I don't know if it's up from the last time or.
Services, what do we pay out?
What was the question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Services?
Contracted services? Is that what you're looking at?
This is the $84,000.
The contracted services line is for most of our IT support, our software programs, for incident reporting, and for both fire and EMS, along with our responder software.
And I don't know if that was intentional, but fire pension, there's nothing allocated for 20.
So that one, and I mixed up my commentary before. That one is reflecting the chiefs in the drop, correct, Chief?
Yes.
Yeah. So because there are, I believe, 4 members in the drop retirement, which is a separate retirement program, their pension contribution is frozen. So we don't need to reflect that there, Counselor. If we're good on fire administration, we'll move on to fire preventive education. Again, under salaries, accounting for contractual increases. Under holiday pay, a nominal increase of $1,780. Longevity, again, nominal increase of $1,000. Under overtime, an increase of $5,000 based on trend. Under conferences and training, we have a reduction of $3,000. Under disaster recovery services, as we have wound down from the emergency of the initial shutdown and pandemic, we've been able to reduce this line item over time and absorb those expenses and other traditional line items. So we budgeted $50,000 for that in 2022. Minor capital at $11,000, and then general plant supplies at $7,000, a reduction of $1,000. Last up, community service saw an increase of $2,000. And Chief, correct me, that covers the smoke alarms that go in the house that I need to change in my.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions under fire prevention?
If I may, the disaster recovery services, that $50,000 is going towards what?
That'll be for COVID equipment and cleaning supplies for like in City Hall, citywide. This isn't just to the fire department. And the reason that's carried under that line, being that the fire marshal is the emergency management coordinator for the city, is why they put that line under his, under the prevention.
And if you remember, Counselor, in 2020, when the shutdown happened, that line item was 500,000. And it's now down to 50,000. Just want to make sure that's noted.
Yeah, as you could see too, I mean, right behind us is equipment that was purchased for that, that's still being stored here. So we're stocked up for EMS equipment, PPE, along, and some of this is yet to be dispersed out among the troops yet. So we're in pretty good shape, but that could change, you know, within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully not.
Wait, do we anticipate finding another line item labeled disaster recovery services, or would that only come out of the fire department?
So that's, Jamar can step in. That's the only one I'm aware of.
That wouldn't be necessary or quite frankly appropriate. As the chief mentioned, this division falls under the fire marshal's office, who is our EMS coordinator and is certified and trained for that. So we wouldn't want to put that under any other department. Also, to the extent that under previous grant funding, we have been able to seek reimbursement and or receive grant funding, we have been able to properly track all of those items under this specific line. So as we seek those reimbursements and file the reports for the grants that we did get, it's easiest to find all the data and expenses because they're all right there under the 4350 line.
Community service there, Councilwoman, is our smoke detector program. This is for the purchase of the smoke detectors and the combination smoke and CO detectors. The program's online under the department. People can reach out and apply online or do an application in the office here, and then members of the department will go out and install these detectors. And this is only in, yeah, let me think here. Lost my train of thought there. Owner occupied residential structures. When it comes to rentals and apartment buildings, the responsibility is on the landlord.
Thank you, Chief. If we're good on, one more. Absolutely. We lost Councilor Goodman Hennershitz to her prior engagement. Moving on to fire suppression. This is where the lion's share of our rank and file firefighters are covered under. Under salaries, that's budgeted at $6,098,591, an increase of $225,000 over the current year, again reflective of the contractual increase. We have holiday pay increasing substantially by $36,632 to reflect the size of that complement of employees. Longevity saw a slight decrease in $8,960, and the uniform allowance saw a slight decrease in $6,096. The retiree payout, as the chief mentioned, is reflected there at $18,843. Contracted services saw an increase of $1,000. Maintenance, repair, and equipment saw an increase of $17,000 over the current year to $125,000. And Chief, when I get done, if you could just touch on what that covers. Gasoline saw an increase of $5,000, adjusting to CPI. And then chemical supply saw an increase of $1,500 to $11,000. and machinery and equipment generally saw an increase of $6,000 to $47,200. Chief, can you touch on maintenance repair equipment as different from machinery and equipment?
Yeah, the maintenance, repair equipment, the primary costs there, the biggest costs are for apparatus repairs that are handled by outside vendors. The city fleet maintenance handles like routine engine repairs to where they can, brakes, inspections, that type of thing. When it gets into the specific function of the apparatus, sort of pump maintenance and repairs and aerial repairs to the ladders and the jacks and all, that we use outside vendors for them services. And as the fleet's aging, then costs just keep going up. As you see, past, we are replacing apparatus, but we still have quite a few that are aged. And then costs are going up till we get them replaced. Some of the other things that fall in line there will be like our Jaws of Life, the Hearst equipment and all, the servicing of that equipment, our breathing air, the breathing air that's used on the air packs, the hydro testing of cylinders and them type of things. That's all covered under this here line. I didn't catch the questions on, was there something?
Yes, there was a question. What budget does the purchase of the apparatus come from?
That's mainly capital, or like in what was just passed, that was out of a CDBG grant under community development that was switched and all. Yeah, the large purchases such as apparatus, ambulances and vehicles are done through the capital program.
Thank you, Chief. The suppression department saw an increase of 126,000 over the current year. And for the previous division, my apologies, preventive education saw a decrease of 123,000 over the present year.
And that decrease was primarily probably because of that disaster recovery line.
Yes, Chief, we did not take anything else.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I didn't know you were bringing props tonight with your supplies there.
Yeah, like that.
Under emergency.
Detectors spread around the room, yeah. And batteries.
Apologies. Under the emergency medical service division EMS, again reflecting contractual salary increases there. There's an increase in the budget for the EMS bonus of 9,000 pursuant to the contract. There is an increase in sick leave of nominally $1,800. There is an increase in holiday pay similar to the suppression division proportionally though of $13,823, bringing that up to $102,000 for 2022. There's a decrease in longevity of $2,600, and then everything remains flat, plus 1,000 in infectious waste removal costs. EMS reimbursements sees an increase of 26,000 to 40,000. And it should be noted just ahead that increase is due to when someone overpays or double pays for their ambulance transport. Previously, our vendor processed those refunds for overpayments. We're now taking that responsibility on for ourselves to refund those payments. Our vendor does tell us who needs to be refunded. It should be noted also that the previous vendor who did do that for us billed us at a 7% rate versus the current vendor, Change Healthcare, billing at a 4.6% rate. So overall, a reduction in the expense there, even though there's an increase reflected. Conferences and training sees a decrease of 1,000, as does maintenance, repair, and equipment. There's an increase of 4,000 for gasoline, an increase of 10,000 for medical surgical supplies. The rest are fringe adjustments. Chief, could you touch on the medical surgical supplies?
Sure, and that was part of the conversation, I think, that we started like with Councilwoman Goodman Hintershitz. It's based on, these are our drug costs and equipment. It's just the cost of doing business these days along, as costs just keep going up every year on these things.
And in the past, Councilor Cepeda Freitas has also asked about the impact of the opioid addiction on our costs for services. And Councilor, we had a bit of a preamble conversation before the official meeting started. So just wanted you to be in on that part of the conversation. Under row 828 there, medical surgical supplies, that increase of 10,000 contributes to the cost of the Narcan in those opioid response situations.
And I could, the conversation that took place earlier, Chief Snitsky's going to be sending some stats to Councilwoman Goodman Hintershitz, and we could copy you on that as well to make sure you see these numbers that he's sending to her tomorrow morning. That information.
Do we have any questions? Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. Any additional questions for the EMS division? Please.
Or I can't see.
Yes, Councilor Cepeda Freitas.
Okay. So when you spoke about the EMS reimbursements, so the city is responsible for reimbursing constituents?
We have a third-party billing company that bills for services. And based on our reports, they're paid for these services. However, when there's bills that are like double pay, that might have been Medicare, a lot of it's Medicare that reimbursed and overpayments. What happens is the company, since the money's already in, comes in through the bills and all, and we might have been double paid, we get notification from the billing company and we got to reimburse the patient for that services. So that's what that line does. If you'll see the increase, I believe if he scrolled down, I think it's 4265, was it? Yeah, 4265. This is part of the learning curve yet with the new billing company. We've only billed, we had it 14,000 last year, and we had to move money from the income line, the revenue line, over to this throughout this year as these amounts keep going up. So we're projecting a 40,000 next year with that increase. I hope that answered the question.
Third party handles it all. You just make sure that money is allocated for
They
that.
handle the billing of the patient. What we got to do, since the funds are already here, we got to reimburse for the overpayments.
So, Councilor,
Go ahead.
the billing. So we have a third-party administrator that bills for all of the ambulance rides in the city, but specific to the reimbursement, again, for the double charges, if any occur, they send us a spreadsheet showing what's already been paid to show the double payment, and then we just reimburse for that. And again, we're increasing it based on the transfers that we've had to do this year to accommodate those costs.
I remember in the past, I don't know if it was this past year, but the auditor had put out a sheet about families, property owners that we owed money to after a fire. The insurance might have paid out or the home had been repaired and we would have to reimburse property owners. Does this come out of fire? And if so, where?
No, that went nothing in the fire budget. I don't know if Fred wants to expand upon that. The fire escrow?
No,
That comes out of fire escrow. That's not
yeah, they're coming out of the fire escrow account.
by this budget.
An item somewhere else.
Yeah, that's not a true city expense. That's funds we collect. and reimburse. Or that's not really an expense.
In space or join a startup in the space where they have more upside opportunity, more flexibility, and they're not stuck within a large organization that drags its feet to get simple products like brokerage out the door.
Needs to mute.
Here's your thoughts on why the sudden increase in price?
So, did we cover the questions?
Yes, thank you.
We covered more than a question.
I had a question regarding collection expenses. What is that for?
Oh, oops.
Collection expenses, that should be let me find the line here. Yes, that's that's what we pay to the billing company. That's 4.6% of the income that we receive from them. So it's estimated that we're anticipating or projecting $3 million, the 138s to 4.6, their fees for that.
And year to date, we've received 2.1 million in revenue on that $3 million budget for EMS revenues. With that, sorry, one second. Moving on to the fire training division budget. Again, reflecting contractual increases there, and nominal increase in holiday pay of $436, decrease in longevity of $500, overall decrease in budgeted training costs of $5,000. Chief, are you able to touch on that one there?
The fire training division basically consists of a fire training lieutenant who's responsible for all department training. He gets assistance from other instructors from other divisions, but he handles all the scheduling and maintaining of records, qualification of apparatus, all the recruit classes and all that. And that's why you'll see that decrease. Next year, we're only anticipating maybe 6 to 7 new recruits versus like that we had 12 to 15 this year.
Gotcha. And because we don't have the drop issue like we had last year, that person, we budget for the pension expenses there. The training budget overall saw an increase of 33,000 over the current year. For the fire department in total, they have a budget of $20,289,561. Under the general fund, a decrease of $36,975 over the present year. Any additional questions for fire department for tonight? It doesn't sound like we need to make any more adjustments, so I should be able to send the updated PDF to the webmaster by close of business tomorrow and have the website version updated, counselors. That is all certainly I have for you tonight. I believe Councilor Reed, I'll throw it back over to you.
Sure. Next on our agenda is CDBG. Subject cell, who will be leading that?
That will be me, Councilor Reed. Good evening, everyone. I'll be more than happy to share with you the presentation. Linda, do I need to share from my end or do you have it?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Linda did send the spreadsheet out about an hour or so ago.
Okay, can you all see this? The spreadsheet?
Yep.
All right. So basically, what I'm going to do, I need to look at the screen. So what it is that the Community Development Department receives CDBG funds every year, and the program itself consists of two components to it. The very first component is considered the composite plan. The composite plan is a five-year rolling plans. So this year it is from 2019 to 2023. The action plan is actually for 1 year, and what is before you is the 2022 plan that you see this. Part of the plan is actually we have to hold a public hearing, and the public hearing was held on October 5th, in which it was attended by nonprofit entities such as Neighbor Housing Services as well as Habitat for Humanity, but it was also open to the public altogether. You will see on the spreadsheet there are two parts to it. The very first part is a non-public part, and the other part, I'm going to scroll very quickly down there, and that is the pink one. That is the public part. So this year's difference and then previous years is that in coordination with Public Works, what we have done is that instead of actually allocating the whole entire fund for a specific project, we try to understand what exactly is required for the time being, whether that is a design, whether that is an actual construction phase, and from there we appropriated the fund based on what we anticipate the activities to be in there, taking into consideration that sometimes there will be residue from previous years in 2021 or 2020. So the reason why we've done this is that we don't want to come into the moment in which we see that the projects are not progressing as anticipated, or they are still in the design phase, and there are some design changes and modification, and as a result of it, the project did not go into construction, and what ends up to be happening there, we end up with a lot of cash in our hand, which is not cash actually, but we have a lot of commitment that we need to meet. If we don't meet this commitment as the timeliness request in there, which is November 1st of every year, what transpires that if we don't meet that, we'll be penalized by HUD, and we are at risk of actually losing the allotted CDBG fund for the following year. As a result of this, what we have done in this year, and you heard the conversation last night, and tonight is Chief Staff indicated that we have purchased two firefighters for the amount of $1.2 million in order not to lose any funding there. So for that reason, what we've done is that we've allocated the money based on what we see the projects are going to have. What's anticipated this year coming in is very similar to the pattern that we have seen in the past few years. The CDBG fund will be about 2.5 million, 2.6 million. The home program will be about $1 million, a little bit shy of $1 million. And the emergency solution grant will be about $220,000. So when you go through the details of the grant itself, the non-public costs, the projects that are allocated for 2022 are on the screen, such as the 3rd and Spruce Playground, the 5th and Penn building, that is, we have that. 6th and Amity building, and that is in the construction, the design phase, and I was part of the review yesterday. The project is still under design considerations. We have not allocated any money for a Belvies in Motion. That program is actually no longer in existence. The ADA program through the Public Works, that continues to be there. So we have two line items for that, one for this year and one a residue from last year that we're carrying. So you'll see a total of 120,000. A new line item that you are seeing for the very first time, and that is Alvernia College, the micro enterprise based in College Town. opening in downtown Reading, actually under the business incubators. They have requested $35,000, and that will fall under the national, which means that they are going to, Albania is going to embrace new businesses, small businesses, and help them out to be able to become successful and launch a very good business opportunity for them. That is considered national objectives, and CDBG funds will allot for that. For the very first time, they have requested $35,000, and we are very happy and proud to be part of this, because that will increase to our our interest in seeing small businesses coming into Reading and growing within itself. The Ben Park, also similar to the Amity, it's still in the design phase. So what we have allotted there is about $100,000. The line in the orange color in there, that is a percentage of the amount that's required for administration, CDBG administration. The $515,000, and you have seen probably from budget, some of our salaries, including myself, PMI, building and trades, and a few other individuals in community development, either paid in part or paid in full from that amount in there. So that is basically where you see the administration, CDBG administrations come into play. The city park improvement, that's another $100,000 going in there. And then we have the code enforcement. Part of that is basically to make sure that property maintenance inspections, payroll is part of that, and the trades as well goes into in there. The blue item in there, that is the demolitions. We talked about the demolitions last night, and we talked about that we have the general funds that is for non-scheduled events. This one here is for scheduled buildings. So basically, when our staff go around and they're driving and they assist the property values and they see that these properties are beyond repair, that is when we schedule them and advertise for the repair. This year we have allotted $300,000, but we also allotted for commercial and residential facade in the amount of $50,000, and that is basically to augment the ARP projects in there. And in fact, this project was before that, but it will add on to the commercial and residential program. That's pretty much what we have in terms of non-public, except that when you scroll down, you will be able to see that we have allotted for the very first time about $100,000 for the Reading Redevelopment Authority. So we'll be able to purchase some properties, blighted properties. And please keep in mind that because this is a CDBG fund, when we purchase the property, in that regard, it will be considered a low to moderate income. In another sense, the money has to come back to the program itself, and it has to be prevailing wages altogether. So that is a tool we are going to be able to use it. The Schuylkill River Trail requested $150,000 for that, to continue with studying there. And Southwest Fire Station, also we've allotted about $40,000. So if you see this, our total here is approximately, I can get this to, we have about $2.2 million allotted for non-program. And then with the public program, basically what we have done, we allotted these based on tasks. We do not allot this based on entity or nonprofit organization, and that gives us the flexibility to move the funds in wherever it needs to be. And we found this a very helpful tool for us when we started with COVID, and we continue to do so. So But basically the homeless outreach, we've allotted $75,000. In the past, that is Burst Coalition for Ending Homelessness. But the category itself is actually homeless outreach. And we've allotted for that $35,000 for this year. The woman post-incarceration, that's $15,000. Usually we allot about $243,000 for police officers who are actually on foot police officers, particularly on Fifth Street and walking around in that area to make sure that there is a police presence. That is the community policing as we refer to all the time. And then we have other programs that we do, such as homelessness families. That's an ongoing project, usually by family departments, for $10,000. We have the homelessness youth, another program for $10,000. That's also run and managed by Family Promise. And then we have the fair housing staff. That's $20,000. The homelessness prevention program. That's $15,000. The landlord and tenant mediation program. That's through our Human Relations Commission, $10,000, and another one for $3,000. That's altogether is about $374,000, as it on a total of about $2,577,000. I ran very quickly through the CDBG, but I'll be more than happy before we move on to the homeless program or home program and the ASD. If you have any questions about the CDBG, please let me know. Councilwoman Sabrina Freitas, yes.
Okay, so I need help understanding these columns.
I basically, the action plan is the action plan it gives you a description of the project, or in case of the public entities, it gives you the name of the entity itself. So for instance, if you scroll here, if you see the green box around this, it gives you the name of the entity, Burst Coalition Home. That's in the pink. If you look at the blue one, it tells you it's demolition, and up above in there, it gives you the name of the project. Do you see that, Councilwoman Freitas? And column A, we just talked about column A right now. Do you see that?
Yes, no, I'm looking at the column. So are we saying that column G, where is the 2022 AP, that is what we will be spending in 2022 for these?
That's what, yes, that's the, yes, that is the full program. That was it in there, because every year the department head provide us with the projects and the amount of funds they are requesting for the project itself. So all of these projects came to us, as you see them, they came to us from Public Works for the design and constructions of the Terrence Spruce, 6 and 10, 6 and Amity, the ADA ramps and the Bear Park. All of these are actually projects that came to us. And in column G here, you will see that in the yellow, that is the approved program. The approved program is basically what we are suggesting, that for that project, we are going to allocate $100,000 or so on and so forth. I hope I answered your question, or at least gave you a clue.
I do have a question regarding the pink section. Now,
Yes.
do we just allocate money every year to the same organizations? Like, this is us giving them money, or is this us paying employees to work with these entities?
Now, basically what happened there, that's a very good question. What happened every year, we, from the beginning of the year, actually, all the way to June 30th, if my memory serves me correctly, we accept applications from entities. This is the public section, which is the most competitive part of it. So there are organizations that come into us, and like we always receive the same applications from the same players. Candidly speaking, we have not seen a change in that. So it's always the older boys and girls. It's always the Coalition for Ending Homelessness, Habitat for Humanity. I'm sorry, not the Habitat for Humanity. I beg your pardon. The Opportunity House and organizations like that. So they come in, like for instance, if you see here, and I'm going to pick on this line, this is the police requesting for the year 22, they requested $542,000. We cannot allocate $542,000 for them. So what we have, in order to keep giving everybody a desirable amount, we can only allocate to them $243,000. Okay. Similarly, Berks Coalition for Ending Homelessness, they requested $50,000, and we can only allocate to them $35,000. So these allocations are based on what we see in previous experience and what we have, what we see how the expenses are actually happening.
And do we have performance measures to determine outcomes of these investments?
Yes, we do have a performance measure. The performance measure is actually by using the funds that are there. Because remember, when for instance, let's say, let me pick on Opportunity House. When Opportunity House come in and say to us, I would like you to expend me $50,000, and they are within that. What will happen is that we actually look at their invoices, and we will see what these invoices are assigned for, and it is very well justified and item by item, no exaggeration. An invoice can be up to 10, 15 pages long in there. So what we do here is that we try to find out how much they have spent within the program that they have, whether it is like home shelter maintenance, for instance. What are they doing with the shelter maintenance? Have they fixed the showers? Have they fixed the air conditioning system? All of these things come into play under that category itself. And this is how we assess how these programs are actually moving forward. But also, I would like to indicate to you that these organizations as well, they receive funds from Berks County, okay? And as such, we try to coordinate with Berks County to see how much Berks County is going to give to the Coalition for Ending Homelessness, and how we are going to do this. I just want to give you a very quick example of this. For instance, this year and through last year, we have received ESGCV, which is for COVID, and that is in the neighborhood of about $2 million that we received them in two parts, CV1 and CV2. In this regard, what happens is that all of this fund is going to go through the Human Relations Commission, okay? And as such, we were trying to help as many people as we can to move the funds as quick as we can. But there was a different approach by the county that came, that was an easier program. So we tried to help our constituents through that program, leaving us with some funds that can be used now for different for different alternatives, and we are coordinating these things very closely now with other agencies in the city.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Sorry if I confused you. Any other questions before we move on to home? Okay, if no questions are asked, then I would like to move to the next one in there. Before we go into ESG, this is home. And with home, we have similar approach to that, except now the players are different. So we basically in the action plan for 2022, we have received requests from different entities such as Habitat for Humanity and Neighborhood Housing Services. We also have requested for the very first time from the Living Development Authority. And what we do here is that we try to put these under programs. So the very first program is acquisition, rehab, and resale. Most likely that will be Habitat for Humanity. And they've requested $579,000. We are allocating for them $500,000. The Chodo program is actually going to be up for grab between 3 entities. And what we would like to do here is that to make sure that we are working collaboratively together, Neighborhood Housing Services, Habitat for Humanity, as well as the Redevelopment Authority. But I also would like to point out to you that Chodo has a certain specific status requirement by HUD. So these boards that need the Chodo can qualify for that. And the Chodo has 2 parts of it: the set aside Chodo as well as the operating expenses. The operating expenses is $30,000. This year we have not allocated that, and for the reason that I mentioned to you. However, for the operating conditions there, we have allocated about $148,000 for that. In addition to this, we have the City Housing Improvement Program, known as the CHIP. We have allocated $98,000, almost $99,000. Home administration, that is for our employees to manage the programs, and that's the certain percentage, about 8%, and it is in the magnitude is $98,000. Then we have the home ownership program, TOP, that's $237,000. Our total projected for this year is about 984, approximately over $1 million, and that's what we are expecting for this year. Any questions about the whole program?
If no one else does, I do.
Please do. Go ahead.
Okay, so first question, how do you decide who you give funding to?
That's an excellent question. Okay, basically, the program itself is scheduled. The whole program is actually a federal program, as you know by now, and it is mainly to serve families within the low to moderate income. In another sense, this is a program that serves cities and communities in need of this. So if, for instance, Habitat for Humanity comes in and say, I have a house in Baltimore, which I would like to buy and rehab, and the total cost for that is $150,000. That is basically within the allotted money that they have requested, because they requested $500,000. And I'm giving you just an example, so they can actually enter into an agreement with us, and this agreement will allot the money for them. We will assign that funds for them, not only we'll send them the money for them, it starts with what's called environmental review report. And once we get the environmental review report clear, that basically the site control comes in next, and then after the site control, it becomes construction activities, and we will monitor these construction activities very, very closely to make sure that we have the expenses as it is. Now the project is completed, Habitat for Humanity could sell this property. Actually, they always sell in this case, and they can lean on what's called another program by Neighborhood Housing Services, because Neighborhood Housing Services, they offer the CHODO, okay? And basically, it gives a chance for a family that does not have the down payment to actually coordinate two programs in one, a mortgage as well as the down payment and the processing fees for that. So a homeowner who would like to own a house and would like to own a brand new renovated house can actually do this, this program altogether. Neighborhood Housing Services does not get into the construction business in our area here. So they actually work very closely with Habitat for Humanity, who does the construction work for them. And I must say that with the LIT grant program, that will add on another layer in which we are hoping we will be able to do some remediation and help in that regard, but we need to be very careful of how we approach this. And as a result of this, you will have the either Reading Redevelopment Authority, Habitat for Humanity, reaching out to NHS to finance the package altogether for them. So 10 minutes later, how can we do this? Habitat for Humanity comes into us with properties. Reading Redevelopment Authority comes into us with properties. NHS comes into us with properties, and we would look at assigned allotted funds, and that's how it is given to these entities.
Go ahead, Jahani, do you have some more?
Yeah, the so just so I can understand, so CHODO typically goes to NHS, whereas the acquisition, rehab, and resale goes to Habitat. And they obviously, I've witnessed their collaborations and partnerships, which is great. It's phenomenal. Regarding home ownership assistance, go to a nonprofit entity to manage, or is that something that we do directly?
No, the city does not do anything. The city relies on organizations such as Habitat for Humanity and NHS to do so. Honestly, we have not had any properties for rental. Most of these properties are for sale. However, there is a program that we work with Berks County Redevelopment Authority, in which they actually participate in our home program, and they prefer to go through a rental or lease programs. They have more specific programs than ours, and they do so. Not most, all of our programs at the time being are actually rehab or new construction. The only program that have home assistance to it is the one in Buttonwood and developed by the Delaware Valley Development Corporation. That is, we are funding part of their programs. We are actually funding them with, I want to say, about $500,000 last year, and another 150 that's coming into them this year. But they are planning on renting these properties, so they are going to develop the houses, the units, and they are going to rent to low to moderate income families.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jahani.
I was sorry. I guess I was at some point at one of our previous meeting, I was just thinking about our employees and wanting to understand if there's opportunities for existing employees, if they're not homeowners already, if they would qualify or be eligible for this home ownership assistance program so that we can have them purchase properties in the city, reside in the city, etc.
The low to moderate income has a very specific criteria to it. It depends on their end. It from what I understand, and I admit to you that I'm not the best to answer this question. Neil Mammoth, who has done this program for years, is much more qualified than I would ever be. I want to say that at least 60% of the average median income is there. And in some cases, probably our employees will not be qualified because they are actually above that threshold.
Oh my God.
Okay, Jahani.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question actually regarding something we're all talking about right now, which is the incentivization of deconversions. In another year, if we have a program in place, would CDBG funds be applicable to a program that has been created to encourage the deconversion of multiple units into either single family or lesser number units structures? Would that be dependent on home ownership?
It would be dependent on home ownership, but I can answer this question in a slightly different way, and that is all the properties that the Reading Redevelopment Authority will acquire. We are going to make sure that they are actually deconverted to a single. So right now we are looking.
So that's single family home. The owner would need to live there, or it's just single family, and will there then be covenants on the deeds that require they never be converted again?
The homeowner has to live in the house.
Okay. Is there a duration? Is there a time frame for that?
We have not discussed this, but most likely what we are going to do is follow the same model that Habitat for Humanity has, and Habitat for Humanity, I believe they have the right to first refusal. In the sense, you cannot just sell it to somebody and flip it and make money on it. So, but we have not had that discussion, and we are not there yet.
Well, I'm glad to hear it's going through redevelopment like that. I do hope that we can find other ways to encourage this throughout the city, because we really need to de-densify, and we really need that from everything from parking to social conditions to school district services all along the way. So however we can, hopefully we have a group working on that and having a policy developed sooner rather than later to get that going. It's so critical.
With your approval, we'll be able to get the land bank, and can actually that will expedite the process altogether, because the land bank is the very first, the quickest way to purchase properties, sell, judicial sale, and have our control on these things. It's a lot quicker than the eminent domain or any other way you can have it there. And the plan, as discussed by the board, they are leaning towards having deconversions in single families. That's exactly what we like.
Look forward to working on that from those different perspectives.
I'm happy to work with you. All right, if there are no other questions on home, I would like to go to ESG, emergency grants. Do we have any questions? No? Okay. Well, the last component of the HUD program is the ESG program, and that is the smallest one of all three programs. It's about $220,000. This program here is actually again for emergency solution grant, And that is, the very first part is the outreach, street outreach. Basically, there are individuals who they go around and talk to homeless people who are sleeping under the bridge or sleeping in abandoned properties, and say to them, hey, by the way, there is a place for you where you can have shelter, you can have a meal, and you can shower and get care taken care of there. There's also the emergency shelter that we have, and the administration cost for that. And then we have the rapid rehousing. The rapid housing for homelessness is basically if something happened and we need to come in very quickly and locate a family. So for this year, it actually, and you'll see down below, these are actually the organizations that we are dealing with almost on a continuous basis. There, we encourage people to apply, but candidly speaking, from what I have heard from my staff, these are the same applicants all the time. The Bush Coalition for Ending Homelessness, the shelters that we have, Opportunity House, Catholic Charities, the Salvation Army. These are the ones that we have. And the funds that are available for them this year are actually the what you see here for the emergency shelter. There it's 5,000. Shelter maintenance is about 131. Rapidly housing is 71,000, and that gives us about $226,000 for the year. Okay. If you have any questions about ESG, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Anybody? Any questions? Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So
Okay, that concludes your presentation, and Jamal.
that is correct. Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll stop sharing.
No questions here, Donna.
There are questions, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay, anyone else among the participants with any questions here? Okay. I believe that concludes our published agenda. Is there anything anyone else needs to bring up or would like to bring up at this time? Jeff, I'll look to your lead on that.
I'm good.
Anyone else? Abe, Frank, anybody?
No, ma'am.
I have the special meeting scheduled for Monday.
Okay. Oh, the redistricting commission.
Correct.
I apologize. My district was the last one lagging behind, but we found someone, so that works out. So Linda, you've got everyone you need now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that meeting will be at 5 o'clock then, special meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. I guess that's it for tonight, unless anyone else has anything. Thank you to everyone, Jamar, Chief Stout, Jamal,
Thank you.
Ada. I hope I say your name right. I apologize if I pronounce it wrong. But we thank everyone. Maria, anything you'd like to add? You've been patiently sitting there all night. All's cool? All's well?
I'm good, thank you.
Then I think it's a little bit before 6:30. We wish everyone a good evening. Stay out of the rain, and tomorrow should be brighter skies. So see everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening,
Thank you all.
everyone.
Good night.
Night.